Welcome back to Real Talk with Darius. Thank you for joining me. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, share this video, and set your notifications so you don't miss any of this content if you really enjoy it. We're going to be talking about a topic that's big time in the news right now, and it's very, very important. A friend of mine sent me a video and asked me to cover it, and the video itself is nearly an hour long, so this is going to be a long one, but I believe it'll be worth your time. Now, I will say this. I have not watched this video yet. Matter of fact, I want you to join me and we can watch it together and I'll share some of my thoughts. I'm going to do my best not to take it too long over that hour period, but you guys are probably familiar with this guy here who's been in the news as of late. Let me go and pull him up real quick. Yeah, Mr. P. Diddy. There's just a lot going on. And if you really care about your children, your nieces, your nephews, any children in your vicinity, if you just care about kids as a whole, you may not even be a parent or a parent yet, and you have dreams and aspirations for the children, understand, and also for the women in your lives, the teenagers, understand that this world is evil. There's a lot of evil people in this world who do heinous, dark, evil things to those that we love, those that they have no respect for, no compassion for, no love for. And they have their various reasons. It could be ritualistic, it could be child sacrifice, a host of other issues, or just simply their own nasty desires, fulfilling their own nasty desires. But justice will be served. It may take a while, but justice will be served. And so, as you can see, P. Diddy, he has been arrested. He's come up, I think, for a second or third time. He's requested bail so that he can be let out of prison or let out of jail and be sent home while he awaits his trial. But they do not trust him. He's at a flight risk. Also, I hear he may be also being watched on suicide watch as well. So he knows a lot of things. He has a lot of connections. From what I've understood, also he has a lot of video footage of the people who've come to his freak off parties and engaged in lewd behavior. So hey, listen, to each his own what they do, but it's not a private matter when they are kidnapping teenage girls and children. I mean, it's really a connected network. So he may be just guilty of his freakish sexual desires, for example. Now, from what I hear, people are coming out the woodworks. Victims are coming out claiming he's done some things. 25 minors have come out saying that he violated them and so forth. So this is this is definitely an ongoing case. It's still pending. There's still a lot of moving parts to it. Case is being developed on both ends. But anyway, I want to share this with you. I want you to watch this with me. This video that I'm getting ready to show. I'm sorry for the commercial there. I wasn't paying attention to it there. But I want you to watch this video with me about a whistleblower releasing some or sharing some information on the traffickers. That is a big, multi-billion-dollar a year enterprise, and it's definitely America's. Definitely, I will use this term, the largest importer and exporter of human trafficking. I mean, of course, with the current administration in office, I think they are. It's my personal opinion. They are a big culprit in this ongoing matter. And I also want to add this, and then we go ahead and get to the video. For those of you who believe in the power of prayer, prayer alone is not enough. But let's start there. That's where the foundation begins. A lot of the children that you've seen missing over the years, you've seen these different pictures. You may even know someone who has potentially fallen victim to being trafficked, to being sexually abused, or even maybe you've been abused by those whom you love, or those whom supposed to love you, to cherish you and protect you. They've violated your trust and violated your life. I pray for the strength, for the recovery. I pray for the God's will be done in this entire matter. Yes, I know it may seem like for some people that God doesn't care, but he does. He does. But anyway, I'm not going to belabor that point right now. My point is, be in prayer for the people, be in prayer for the victims, even be in prayer for the perpetrators. That they get a conscience somewhere and they get the help release these victims, okay? All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video.
President Barack Obama aided and assisted in the coordination of the federal kidnapping of my son.
Barack Obama fired Gerald Walpin.
The president's decision to fire a federal inspector general.
Inspector General Gerald Walpin, who investigated Mayor Kevin Johnson during the AmeriCorps sex scandal in Sacramento County.
Our top story of the early afternoon, a new push for details about the investigation into abuse allegations against Sacramento mayoral hopeful Kevin Johnson.
Officer Charleston Hartfield's body was the only police officer whose dead body was ever shown on all platforms of social media.
That my husband miss Yeshua so much. I just want him to come home.
They denied me due process. They denied me the opportunity to speak, and they dropped the felony charges against me.
And the next thing I know, he comes back. He's sweating. His face is wet with sweat. He grabs Joshua up in a blanket, and I didn't see them again for months.
In 1996, I created Integrated Media Arts Program. It was part of Sierra Digital Arts Studio Partnership, which is all the media arts teachers in Sacramento Valley, all the way to Nevada. That program fell under Dr. Bill Brownston, nonprofit. Now, about 2003, I had 1,500 students in my program, and we became very popular because we had short films that we distributed throughout the city. 2005, the city of Sacramento requested our program's assistance in battling youth homicide and high school graduation rates in Sacramento County. So the city of Sacramento requested our partnership in 2005. That was a good time for us because we also picked up a $26 million grant from the Department of Justice. That grant allowed us to sign up 25,000 youth in Northern California for our program. I needed after school media arts tutor for students battling math issues. So I went to Sacramento State University and I found Mrs. Shoshana Michelle Robertson. She was the first cousin of Mayor Kevin Johnson, NBA star you guys may have heard of.
I'm Kevin Johnson, and I'm running for mayor of Sacramento, California. I'm here at the Democratic Convention in Denver, Colorado, because I'm a proud American and I'm a proud Democrat.
She began working with me. Within about 3 months, she moved in. I had no idea she was running from a federal investigation from Inspector General Gerald Walpin. And I had no idea she was in a program with Mayor Kevin Johnson that went haywire, and she was running from a federal investigation. Long story short, 2006, we had a citywide event for youth because it was the worst 1 week period in Sacramento history where youth had been murdered. So the city needed our assistance in getting the youth together. So we had this youth summit. Everybody came, FBI, all the law enforcement agencies, in order to find out the solution to these youth. The youth requested our program. over everything that was going on.
I thank God for our fellow Johnson because truly I have a love for music. I have a love for music, and that's every time that I come to somebody about, yeah, I want to do music, and they're like, oh, yeah, cool, dude. Oh, you can sing. Oh, so much talent that is healing because we don't have people like Hello. He giving us free studio time. I never in my life had anybody come at me with free studio time.
There ain't nothing that you want to learn that you can't learn here.
This program has been a lifesaver for my grandson. My grandson is Sean Middleton, Killer Keys, and he just turned 16 Thursday, and he's a rapper.
So for the first time in history, the Sacramento Police Department was not funded by the city of Sacramento, and our program was funded over the city of Sacramento Police Department. That was the first time this ever happened in the history of the city. 2007, I graduated from Intercoast College with a credential in alcohol and drug counseling. I had to obtain that credential for the Department of Justice grant. While working at 17 different locations under the city of Sacramento and Mayor Fargo, on June 21st, 2007, my first child was born, Yeshua Gunsan Wobade. Soon after, I found out that Shoshana's drinking problem was more serious than I thought. She had been drinking since the age of 10, and she was a blackout alcoholic. In the beginning, when we first met and she first moved in, we recorded about 21 hours of videotapes for our youth program. This was part of the film called A Road to a Youth-Friendly City. Inside of these videos, she broke down every person who molested her from age 3 all the way up to age 15. Though,
hold on one moment. 3 years old? 3 years old? How sick can a person be to mess with a baby? A baby!
Those people that she talked about were, number 1, Mayor Kevin Johnson. Number 2, Governor Brown. Number 3, her aunt, who was a career criminal, Sarah Mitchell. Her uncles, her brother, Arthur Robertson Sr., her own father, Arthur Robertson. And there were Magic Johnson, there were a lot of other names, but those were the names that I remember.
When I met her at the after-school program, Shoshana was sitting and telling me about that she had been molested ever since the age of 3, as far as she could remember. And then she told me that she was in after-school program with, and Kevin Johnson was the leader of the program. I suppose it was his program, and that he liked her because she had, Kevin liked her, Johnson liked her because she had big breasts. And so she felt special because she thought that Kevin Johnson just liked her. But Shoshana found out later on that Kevin Johnson was doing it to a lot of other children. And
this is insane. I mean, we just barely a few minutes into this, 8 minutes into this video. This is insane. See, this proves, let me go, I'll be right, we're going to get right back to it because as I already explained to y'all, this is a long video. My dad says something one of his very, very important quotes he's given. He's shared with me, my siblings, but also others. Your character, your talent can take you where your character can't keep you. I mean, I'm a Magic Johnson fan, or was. Kevin Johnson. Mayor Kevin Johnson. I was a fan of his when he played for the Phoenix Suns, the NBA basketball team. Magic Johnson, of course, most people know him. Lakers legend, point guard, 6'9". Called him the Magic Show because he would put on the show with that ball and his passing ability and all those things. And yet they got such character deficits. Now, I do, people, yeah, I know people do things years and years ago. Some folks do recover and things of that nature. God loves and forgives all. Let me state that, number one. We're not better than God. All of us have some dark past, that somebody else will find egregious. But these types of behaviors, messing with the innocent ones, is at a whole nother level, And this is just egregious, y'all. So I hope you continue to watch this video with me. We can go through this together. I do pray for the victims, especially that they recover, because some people, I don't have any statistics and stuff like that, but we do know that for lesser situations or people commit suicide. So we don't know how many people have ended their own life because they've felt some negative way, or they was ostracized or further mistreated, as if no one cared about them, or whatever the case may be. And some people, I'm sure, have committed suicide. But let us pray for those who are still struggling with these issues. Some of them who are still captives of their captors.
And so Shoshana became depressed, and Shoshana tried to commit suicide. I think
See, I was unaware of that. Like I said, I haven't watched this video yet. My friend sent this to me a while ago, maybe about a couple months ago, actually. And I intended to cover it earlier, but I guess I'm glad I didn't, because now there's this type of information is at the forefront in the news. People are more apt to listen or to pay attention. Anyway, let's go and continue with the video.
She was around 11 or 12 years old at the time. And then she said that her mom let Kevin Johnson take her wherever he was going on tour with the basketball team or whatever for 2 weeks. Kevin Johnson had her for 2 weeks.
These were the people who molested her. She had all their names just in case they chose to do something to her. She wanted us to keep the tapes, so she gave those tapes to me. I had those tapes. On Election Day, 2008, I believe November 4th, they came for those tapes after I told her to come back with the child. She told Mayor Kevin Johnson that I was going to give up those tapes because we had broke up. So they came for me and they came for the tapes. The police, Mayor Kevin Johnson's police department came for the tapes, and they got the tapes. They illegally came into my home. Captain Daniel Hahn took all the videotapes out of my home, and they couldn't arrest me because I didn't do anything, and they sent me to mental health, and they kept me there for 19 days. 2009, I began working at Win Youth Services in North Sacramento, 95815. I was still under Sacramento.
Let me say this real quick. Do y'all see that when people are in powerful positions, how they abuse their authority when they want to cover up their dirt? Do y'all see this? This is what causes. Oh, let me add this too. Isn't that a black on black crime? When we talk about these discussions, and I'm only reason I'm bringing this up is because, and I'm gonna keep it very short, is because I have heard more about white on black or blue on black than I have black on black, and we kill each other in today's world. We kill each other a lot more than those on the opposite side of the aisle. Okay, or on the other side of the street, however you term that. That's black on black crime. Black people committing crimes against black people via drugs, human trafficking, sex trafficking, gang banging, all that kind of stuff. I don't see the same energy as when one white person is involved with a black person. I'm not saying it's not wrong. I'm not saying you shouldn't show any energy, give any energy to that. But I'm saying you should actually be more upset be it Asian against Asian, white against white, black against black, brown against brown, whatever. Your own ethnic groups you should be able to trust and count upon. But you can't do that. None of us can really do that. Anyway, I digress. This is egregious, y'all. Like I said, what we into this 9 minutes, less than 10 minutes into this video, and I'm upset. I'm upset. This is ridiculous. How can this go on? People get in powerful positions and they wield their authority unjustly. If you see a mayor does it, police involved, I guarantee you judges, attorneys, you name it, NBA players, powerful people in these positions. Again, P. Diddy is a very powerful person, right? Or was. Has a lot of names, has a lot of videos.
City Council, Hammond and Pinnell's Department of Justice grants. We created a documentary called 95815. It was funded by the Department of Justice, and it explained why our community was the #1 mortality zip code in the nation. 95815. It explained why Starbucks was sitting next door to a crematory and why the cancer rates were so high. This was a nonprofit organization, even though it was a continuation high school for Twin Rivers. I was not only a teacher there, I was a media arts curriculum educator and the lead alcohol and drug counselor. All of this fell under the Department of Justice grant for LGBTQ homeless youth. While working the alcohol and drug part of this grant, two 14-year-old students, spoke about being molested by a police officer. So I had to do an investigation. When I investigated the case, they had been homeless for approximately 2 years, and for the last 2 years, they have been exchanging meth for esques with a police officer. I got the police officer's name, and I filed a mandated child abuse report with my boss, who was the president of Sacramento Unified School District, Ellen Bell. I followed up with the request, and it didn't seem like it was moving like I would hope that it would move. I would hope that, they would immediately get this guy in custody, whoever he was. I didn't know who the gentleman was. I just had his name. And it didn't work out as fast as I wanted it to work out. So I followed up the second time with a second report, but this time I went over her head and I sent it directly into the state where the reports are supposed to be made. And next thing I know, I'm going up a ladder that goes to the roof of the building. I was requested to go up to this ladder to get some supplies where we keep all our supplies in the attic of our school. I'm going up the ladder, and when I'm coming down with the supplies, I hear an explosion. Boom! I wake up in the hospital. I fell through a glass meeting table. It's a about 25-seat meeting table in the meeting room. It was alongside of the attic, and I fell through that. So I fell through that, and I'm in a pool of blood, and that was the end of my career at Wind Youth Services. Circling back to Donald Black. Donald Black was a 24-year Sacramento sheriff veteran who was exchanging meth for sex with two of my LGBTQ Department of Justice grant clients at Wind Youth Services in 95815. Following this report, we called North Sacramento captain, who was Daniel Hahn, on the speakerphone with the president of Sacramento Unified School District, Ellen Bell. He confirmed receipt of the complaint. I had no idea that he was friends to this person. And it basically got pushed underneath the rug. After that, Shoshana Robertson got caught doing 100 miles an hour with Yeshua Awobade, my son, in the car, along with her mother, Pamela Robertson. She was taken to jail, and eventually I got full custody of my son, Yeshua Awobade.
He had physical custody of Yeshua. Yeshua was not going to school. He had Yeshua out of school the entire time that he was gone with Yeshua. I took a drug test, a hair drug test, and I was found dirty for cocaine, in which he was given custody. Yeah, I had a DUI in 2009. And so then I had to submit to alcohol saliva test in order to see my son.
She wasn't charged with PC 273A, which is child endangerment, which is a 6-year sentence because of the mother's relationship with the district attorney, Jan Scully. 2010, February, a follow-up with 2 mandated child abuse. This is my second mandated child abuse report on Donald Black and my 2 students who are now missing. I woke June 15th, 2010. My son's mother drug test came back positive for multiple drugs, and the judge gave me full custody. All she had to do was go to her drug treatment, and she would, we could split custody. It wouldn't have been a problem. So I assisted with helping her get sober. I took her to her program every day because the only program that was available, she had to bring her child, which is our son, Yeshua, with her every day. That was the only program available. It had to do with parents and children. So I took her to a program every day. She never got sober. This was her choice. And full support from me and my part of the family. We did everything we could to assist her in her recovery. And it was her choice not to get sober. So I never lost custody until today, not even until today. I still have full custody of my son, and she's never assisted or tried to get that custody back. In 2011, I'm taking my son's mother, Shoshana, and my son home from the rehabilitation alcohol and drug counseling center that she has to go to every day. We're on, I believe, our 9th month. It was a 30-day program, but now we're on our 9th month. And we walk into the house, and next thing I know, they're beating me with bats and irons over my head. It was Shoshana Robertson, Pamela Robertson, and Sarah Mitchell, which was her aunt. I wake up in the ambulance, and my shirt's bloody, and I'm being arrested by Sacramento Sheriff Donald Black, the same person I just filed this report on. And that happens. I file for child support, and I send my nephew to Shoshana mother's home. When they get to the home, there's a party going on, people in the house. My nephew hands over the paperwork, and they chase my nephew down. People out of the house, her relatives, her cousins, and they shoot him twice in the face. bam, bam. And I get to the hospital. I'm heartbroken. I'm sick. Thinking I'm about to lose my nephew because I sent him over there, gave him $20, and they got him, and he lived.
Wow.
And
thank God.
It's been a horrific, domestic violence experience. Horrific domestic violence experience, not only from my son's mother, but from the family. These are all convicts that we're talking about. And I had no idea Sacramento Sheriff Donald Black and the grandmother of my son Yeshua were friends for over 25 years. They're both leaders in their unions. And
I mean, do y'all see this? Do y'all see people, how they use their positions to do a lot of these nefarious things? Just because you're a person in a powerful position, you may sound nice, you may say the right things, you may seemingly be qualified for certain roles or positions, doesn't mean you actually are, because of your character. This is some, and this could be going on in any one of our neighborhoods, any one of our precincts, or our communities. This could be going on in any one of our communities.
It's what I eventually find out. That situation just scared me to death. I'm petrified now because I've never been hurt like that in my life. I've never been assaulted by anyone, other than a junior high school fight. So I get my friend at the time, I get her pregnant. I don't want anything to do with Shoshana and her family at all at this point, because they are violent, and I'm in constant fear for my safety around them, following my nephew being shot and following me being beat unconscious with baseball bats. In fact, Shoshana admits to this in our family services report. So 2011, I'm done. I'm done with, dealing with being a horrific victim of domestic violence. I'm done. I can't take it anymore. So I get my daughter's mother pregnant. My daughter was born July 25th, 2012. And that enraged Shoshana to the point of murder. She wanted to kill me. She's on these drugs, and my child's mother is not African American, so she wanted me really bad. And the fact that she was one of the most beautiful young ladies in the town didn't help at all. 2012, July 2nd, Shoshana Robertson, she fakes a suicide. This suicide is meth-induced, and she does it as a plan with her mother in order to gain custody, to get the union support behind her. She promoted it as if it was her first suicide, which in fact it was maybe her 6th, 7th suicide attempt. And the first one was documented in 2012, when she was 12 years old, actually. July 2nd, that's when she attempted the suicide. July 25th is when my daughter was born by Amanda Domandan, beautiful Filipino Hispanic goddess. She did not want her son, who I had full custody of at this time, to be raised, with this non-African American mother, was her saying. And so she did everything she could to make that not happen. On September 28th, 2012, she obtained custody of the child. Even though she was on supervised visits as a meth addict, she obtained full custody of the child on a golf course. Judge Jane U.R.E., Sacramento County, gave her full custody of the child without a court date on September 28th. The same day, a murder attempt occurred on me while I was walking my dog, O'Shea Tura, along the river. We go to the river. I see Corey Credit and Leslie Joseph Owens, two career criminals and husband to the mother of Shoshana Robertson and cousin to the mother of Shoshana Robertson. They pull around a corner and all I hear is gunshot. Pow, pow, pow. Right directly in front of my head, right inches from my head, I was at a tree and the tree split. Pow. So I knew they were on me. So I run faster and faster and faster. I finally get home. I call the police. They come. They said they suggested me to leave town. So I left town. I returned to Sacramento on the 5th of October. I go straight to court. And my original judge was there. And he wanted to know, how did this woman obtain custody without a court date? He wanted to get to the bottom of it. But there was already an investigation going on with Judge Lori Earl and Sacramento Sheriff Captain Beggs of the Sacramento Superior Court Division of I guess it was their U.S. Marshal Service inside of the courthouse. So they were already investigating what was going on. So because I informed them the day that it happened, I had already got the investigation started. So now the judge is in the hot seat because how do you give a person custody without a court date? So that's kidnapping. That is
now, and there's no telling how often this has happened. But since most of these things don't happen on a national scale or on a federal scale, you are completely, we are completely oblivious and lacking in knowledge or ignorant of the fact that some of our own local officials, judges, attorneys, police officers, etc., they are abusing. I don't know how many or who, but they're abusing their power. This is, y'all, this is real life. This is not a television show or a movie. We see it happen in movies and people really think it stays in the movies. It's fiction. It's a fake story or a made up story. Do you not consider at the very least? I mean, we've seen a lot of TV shows and movies have this this line in it, or this, what do you call it? Anyway, they say, based on a true story. So do you not consider that a lot of the TV shows and movies that we have, many of us have enjoyed over the years, even up to even in today's time, have been watching what's actually going on in the real world? Or are you just one of those people who don't want to think about it? As long as it's not happening to you, as long as it's not affecting you and your loved ones, I don't know about it. Now, that's irresponsible, but that's your choice. You say, well, what can I do about it? That's a good question. Be creative. For Christians, I would say believe and pray. That's something to pray about, because what happens if they turn their ire against you or someone you like, someone you love? They don't have to have a reason. They can make up one. Maybe sometimes we put ourselves in positions, compromising positions, that would cause us to suffer under the hands of people like this. But this is real life.
Public corruption. That's a federal crime. So now we're dealing with upcoming federal court date for these illegal things that done happened to me in the middle of an attempted murder. So the same day she gave her full custody, an attempted murder occurs. The only way for her to get custody of a child is if I'm dead. So people have to put that together, what was really going on. She wanted custody so bad, and she didn't want me to raise our son with the mother of my child now, who is Amanda Demondon.
And I would say this really quick. He mentioned he was with I don't know I think he's still with, we'll find out here more if she's the same lady he's about to name he's given. But does that sound kind of racist to you? I mean, I'm not trying to be nitpicky, but I'm just, as a Christian, African American or black person, however you identify, if a white person said the exact same thing about Shoshana, for example, the storyline, part of the storyline would be racism. But because it's a black person saying this about a Hispanic person, you won't hear none of those, no complaints, no arguments, no outcries about that. The only reason I'm pointing it out is to show the hypocrisy of many people who make those kind of calls and judgments and debate about this kind of stuff. That's all.
The mother of my daughter. Before I could leave town again after September 28th, I had to sell everything in my home. Now I'm out of here because my life is in danger. My child's life is in danger. And I'm in fear that she's going to do something to my newborn and my mother of my child. So I plan to get out of town. At this time, I called my father, who does private investigations and stuff like that. He's William McKinley Johnson. So I called him in, explained to him what's going on. He flies out the next day. And he begins investigating what's going on. So he ends up making some type of deal with Mayor Kevin Johnson where he got $300,000. I don't know the specifics of the deal, but he gets $300,000 from Mayor Kevin Johnson to, I guess, make things go away, make sure that I don't.
Wait a minute. Mayor Kevin Johnson pays some guy $300,000. So question, maybe this gentleman here explained it to us, this whistleblower. Where did that money come from? Citizens of that city or that state, Seattle, where did that money come from? Was it taxpayer dollars or was it from Kevin's own personal bank account? That's another clue. That's another question we need to ask, because these so-called politicians who supposedly represent us, how many of them really don't? They represent their own interest and or somebody higher up. Very important question. Something really to think about. And please, why in the world are we so used to people being corrupt? I mean, think about it. We just say, well, that's kind of where we live in. Now, to some degree, I get that. I'm not saying we finna change all of that. But we should have some level of outcry and demand justice and demand righteousness and all that kind of stuff. Unless you're the same kind of person or you somebody who's okay with people having dirty laundry in their closet. Because you got dirty laundry in your closet. There should be a certain level of expectation of there should be value in virtue and integrity. No, I didn't say perfection. But the higher you go up as far as your position, your state in life, and your influence, the lives that are being affected by your decisions, the more scrutiny you're going to be under. So we should demand better.
Contact the federal government and follow up on what was going on. So I disappear. I leave town and it's over. But before I can leave town,
real quick. This was his father, whom he called to ask for help. And his father got paid to shut it down. Shut up. Shut up and make things go away.
9th of July, they come to my hotel where I'm staying at. I moved out my home, executive home, beautiful home, and into some hotels on the river. I go to my car something tells me to look underneath my seat. There's guns and drugs underneath my seat. So they were attempting to have me set up before I left town.
Wow.
So I take all the drugs, I take the guns, and I throw them in the river. Now I know that they're trying to set me up so I don't leave town. And that was 2012. I leave town right around, I go to UC Davis. I go to Davis before I go to Las Vegas. So I go to Davis, and from that point, I'm getting threats from the family of Shoshana Michelle Robertson. On January 5th, 2013, I called my father. How you doing? He said, man, I'm dying. I said, what you mean you dying? She talk about, oh, gee, what you mean? He said, man, they poisoned me. I said, who poisoned you? She said, Leslie, Joseph Owens, and Pamela Robertson. How they do that? You know what's going on, son. You know what they sent me. I said, okay, Dad, man, I love you, man. I'm gonna talk to you later. Evidently he was on one. And the next day I called Shoshana to ask what's going on. My dad said, y'all poisoned him. He said, yeah, and he dead. And you next. Well, I didn't know my father was dead until I called Shoshana. And Leslie Joseph Owens got on the phone. Leslie Joseph Owens said, yeah, you're next. Pamela Robertson got on the phone. All you have to do is give us custody of Yeshua and we'll leave you alone. That's all we want. That day I found out my father was deceased.
The woman that he had been living with, she told me, after I called her, another female called me and told me, the female named Maria called me the day before I talked to his wife and said that he was dead. Your husband is dead. And she just hung up the phone. And so I was trying to call Linda, but I didn't get her until the next day. And when I talked to her the next day, I said, Linda, what happened? She said, oh, he had an aneurysm. I said, oh, okay. So that's what I thought he died of, was an aneurysm. I didn't know until last year when I contacted the medical examiner in Boston that he died of acute fentanyl poisoning. And so I wanted to get his death certificate, but they wouldn't send me his death certificate because Linda signed her name as his wife when she was not his legal wife. I was, and she knows that. He died January 6, 2013.
My son was kidnapped October 1st, 2014. I did everything I could to get him back. Eventually got in touch with Officer Hartfield and explained to him that my son was kidnapped. He couldn't believe it. He said, no way. I said, yeah, 19 of your officers and a U.S. Marshal came to take him away. They claimed he was going to have a court date in 72 hours, but that never happened. I gave him all the evidence that I had, showing him what was going on. And he came back a couple months later with his eyes looking kind of sad and said to me, they will kill us for exposing them for what happened. Number one, I'm sorry about what happened to your son and what's happening to your son. I'm going to go out there and see if I can locate him and see if I can talk to him to see how he's doing. Mr. Hartfield went to Howe Avenue Elementary in Las Vegas, Nevada. Howe Avenue Elementary in Sacramento, California, where he was federally kidnapped to. My son told Officer Hartfield that he was being molested, raped, filmed, and forced to drink 32-ounce cups of it on camera.
Well, what happened to me was that, back in 2014, knocked down the door, had pinned to me, my dad's mom and my dad, and just at my dad and my mom and me, and telling me to be quiet. And then I was put in the receiving home after, and my other grandmother came and picked me up instead. And I was confused and questioned at the same time. And that's when things start to get really more intense.
Hartfield connected with Inspector General Walpen and Jennifer Hobbs. All this stuff is documented on my Google Drive. 2 Google Drives. gmail.com. Officer Hartfield connected with Captain Larry Burns of the Las Vegas Metro Police Department. They were working together to obtain all the information they were going to need for federal court and also state court to prove Yeshua was indeed kidnapped by co-workers of Las Vegas Metro Police Officer Charleston Hartfield. What Hartfield came back with was that his boss, Mr. Joe Lombardo, was guilty of the kidnapping NRS 200.320 of Yeshua. Several CPS workers and 19 co-workers of Mr. Charleston Hartfield were guilty of his federal kidnapping. This was confirmed by Las Vegas Metro Police Captain Larry Burns, 2017. Officer Hartfield had his case together and presented it to his union and the FBI of the Las Vegas FBI. 2 weeks later, October 1st, Mandalay Bay, where I have been a taxi driver since 2016. We had the Route 91 concert. Officer Hartfield, in his paperwork, filed an arrest warrant against, at this time, I believe, Commissioner Steve Sisolak. He also filed against his co-workers. This was a no-no in law enforcement. You don't tell on your guys. At the same time, Hartfield released his book, and his book will tell you that his Las Vegas Metro Police Department is corrupt. He informed us of the corruption in his book, and in retaliation for being a witness in my upcoming court date, November 6, 2019, 17th, Officer Hartfield was murdered in cold blood by Stephen Paddock. Stephen Paddock was found in my house. I put a restraining order against him and my son's mother, who let him in the house because I was under terrorism. They were terrorizing me because Steve Sisolak, who was the commissioner, was guilty of the federal kidnapping and state kidnapping of Yeshua Awobade, my son. So that's a life sentence with no possibility of parole. Because of this, they chose to murder Hartfield after Hartfield filed an arrest warrant against them. This happened 2 weeks prior to them killing Officer Hartfield and 57 other innocent bystanders.
In a matter of seconds, a country music festival turned tragic, a storm of gunfire raining down upon an innocent crowd.
He was shooting everybody, and there was dead people everywhere, and I don't even know what was happening.
In the horror of the Las Vegas shooting, a few ran into the sound of gunfire and the hail of bullets to save others among them. Charleston Hartfield, an off-duty cop, was among them. He ran to help those under fire at the Route 91 Harvest Festival and gave his life doing it. You see his picture on the left there, the memorial service to him on the right. The Nevada National Guard honored him by promoting him to first sergeant at his funeral. Charleston Hartfield, one of the best America has to offer, was 34 years old.
See, I remember the Las Vegas shooting. I don't remember where I was at the time, but I remember hearing about that. I remember seeing the footage that we just saw all over the news. But you know what this goes to show? It goes to show us that when we see or hear about incidents like the gun shooting here in this case, we don't really know the true motive behind what actually transpired that led to that particular moment. It looks just like a random incident took place when it really wasn't random. But many lives were lost that day, unfortunately. So I don't know, is there more to this? Could be. But it shows you how corrupt, and when people in power, it shows you what people in power would do, what lengths they're willing to go to protect their secrets, their evil deeds, and even protect each other. And I'm going to touch upon this and we'll get back to the video. It's amazing. In the armed services, in the police departments, these guys, I've heard that over the years, that they don't rat out on each other. Well, if you don't do anything corrupt, what is there to rat on? You have issues and you probably involving your partner, or they somehow come across your misdeeds, and you want to hold them accountable because their conscience is stronger than yours and they're willing to listen to their conscience over, and you don't want to listen to yours, and so you feel betrayed by them because they expose some type of criminal activity, even by the person who's wearing this person in uniform. Y'all might be in the same precinct. That's just ridiculous, and that's irresponsible. And I had some other words I would use, but I'm not going to go there.
Programs assistance.
Oh man, I'm sorry, y'all. Let me get back to it. I apologize. Let me get to it. See where we at here.
2 weeks later, October 1st, Mandalay Bay, where I
apologize, y'all. Be patient with me. Let me get us back to the right point. I don't even know where that was. There we go. Let's see. Nope, we passed that. Okay, there we go.
Shooting everybody, and there was dead people everywhere, and I don't even know what was happening.
In the horror of the Las Vegas shooting, a few...
Let me go back up a little bit more because I know we was past that part.
And did jobs for him at his computer company. So, Officer Hartfield filed on everybody 2 weeks before he died. Because I had evidence to confirm everything that happened on my court date, November 6th, after Hartfield's murder. They denied me due process. They denied me the opportunity to speak, and they dropped the felony charges against me. Because I had already informed the internal affairs of Hartfield's why Hartfield was murdered. The internal affairs turned on me and came for me.
This is ridiculous.
Behind Officer Hartfield. Internal affairs eventually had 2 more warrants placed for my arrest. I'm the victim, but they have to keep me contained because of Officer Hartfield's story. While keeping me contained, they're erasing all court dates, court files. You know, how do you erase somebody out of the court system? Because all the evidence in the court system was supported, assisted, connected to Officer Charleston Hartfield. My 2016 case, Officer Hartfield helped me put it together. Inspector General Gerald Walpin helped me put it together. So they had to erase all the evidence in these federal cases, and they used the federal case to hunt down Hartfield and to murder Hartfield. They used my 2016 U.S. District Court case, Johnson v. Schubert, to eliminate Officer Hartfield. Officer Hartfield wasn't the only target that day. I was the second target that day. This happened where I drive taxis. Under the Nevada Taxi Authority. So Officer Hartfield's family didn't deserve this. Officer Hartfield was the only police officer that I know of, because I researched it, whose dead body was ever shown across social media. Officer Charleston Hartfield's body was the only police officer whose dead body was ever shown across all platforms of social media.
Because they were sending a message, letting folks know.
They showed him laying dead after being riddled with bullets.
That's so sad.
To make that worse, they released his autopsy report to the public. I guess to say this is what happens to cops who tell on other cops.
Yeah.
For child trafficking and federal kidnapping 7-year-old children. Those who tell, this is what happened. So they allowed his autopsy to be placed across all platforms.
Yeah, they were sending a message.
Of social media. Never again in the history of the internet has a cop's riddled dead body ever been allowed to be placed on all platforms of social media. But this was a statement.
Yeah.
I believe a statement from Obama.
Wow.
That this is what happens when cops tell on other cops for child trafficking.
Wow. Obama.
President Barack Obama aided and assisted in the coordination of the federal kidnapping of my son, Yeshua Awobade. This occurred in support of Sacramento Mayor Kevin Johnson.
Top story of the early afternoon, a new push for details about the investigation into abuse allegations against Sacramento mayoral hopeful Kevin Johnson. This morning, a group of self-described activists gathered. They were demanding release of details about the investigation into the claims. KCRA3's Tom Duhane joins us live from Sacramento with the latest on demands and the Johnson campaign's response and what police have to say. Tom?
Right now, Walt, I'm in Oak Park on 2nd Avenue, and you can see this podium right behind me where Kevin Johnson and his supporters are going to have a news conference in about 15 minutes to respond to an event that happened this morning at the Sacramento Police Department.
Obama fired Inspector General Gerald Walpin, who investigated Mayor Kevin Johnson during the AmeriCorps scandal, sex scandal in Sacramento County.
Wow.
An update for the story that we brought you earlier this week. Barack Obama fired Gerald Walpin. He is the Inspector General of the Corporation and National Community Service. That is the federal agency responsible for distributing money to organizations like AmeriCorps and places like Acorn. But Walpin was investigating the alleged misuse of the federal funds by Sacramento Mayor Kevin Johnson, former NBA star and Obama friend and supporter. Well, what happened? You're supposed to fire an inspector general with a 30-day notification. It's required by law. And you're supposed to say exactly what you're firing for. Well, responding to the critics like me, last night, the White House released a statement explaining that Walpin was confused and disoriented. And they questioned his capacity to serve. With me now, fired Inspector General Gerald Walpin. He is speaking out about the letter from the White House for the first time. Gerald, how are you, sir?
Fine. Good seeing you again.
Good to see you. Gee, that's not too veiled of a message that you're maybe a little too old for the job, Gerald. You might be a little senile.
Well, I suggest to you that it's really unfortunate when the government suggests that somebody is too old for public service.
Well, there were a couple of things that he said. That the board saw you in a meeting and you were disoriented and confused and all disheveled. Can you tell me about that?
Oh, I was at a meeting making a presentation telling the board that they had the responsibility to act independently also, to oversee what the corporation was doing and shouldn't just follow blindly whatever the corporation said it was doing. And they refused to listen to me. Then I went on to the 2 reports we had issued. At least I tried to go on to them. I did one of them, and they were constantly peppering me with questions. Mm-hmm. I think for them to say that I was disoriented is an amazing flinging of mud.
This sex scandal involved a lot of young women who were all under the federal grant of AmeriCorps in Mayor Kevin Johnson's program. Obama came in to support Kevin Johnson because Kevin Johnson supported Obama with full support financially and other during his run for president.
I'm Kevin Johnson, and I'm running for mayor of Sacramento, California. I'm here at the Democratic Convention in Denver, Colorado, because I'm a proud American and I'm a proud Democrat. And Barack Obama's done something that we have not seen in 40-some-odd years in our lifetime. He's inspired and struck a chord in this country, and I think America's about to have real change.
Obama felt, I believe, that he owed Kevin Johnson, so he stopped the federal investigation. I was the keeper of federal evidence for Inspector General Gerald Walpin through Shoshana Michelle Robertson, who initiated the federal investigation against Mayor Kevin Johnson, which was her first cousin.
Excuse me.
Obama came in, stopped that, because Mayor Kevin Johnson was on his way to not being the mayor of Sacramento if this information would have hit the media. So Obama shut it down. I am still part of that investigation. So I believe Obama came for me. Obama came for me through obtaining my child through fraud, force, and coercion. during the federal kidnapping. Well, after the federal kidnapping, my son was sex trafficked from age 7 to age 15. Obama is 100% guilty of that happening because Obama demonized me in the media through the use of a congressional authorized organization called the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Obama used America's Most Wanted, John Walsh, the #1 face in law enforcement in the world, to have me labeled as a child sex perpetrator in the media by placing me on every Walmart wall in America for my capture and murder.
We were in Walmart in Vegas, and my son, he called me over. He said, "Mom, come here. Come here." I said, "What?" He said, "Look up there." And they got the boards, you know, with missing children and stuff. And they had him and Joshua's picture on the billboard. On the board in Walmart. Poly class. I call them people. I said, "How you going to help somebody abduct a child? You supposed to be about..." And they brushed me off, you know. I said, "This boy was not kidding. The police kid. Y'all help the police. Y'all help child trafficking." But see, Vegas is a hub of child trafficking. You know, so it was a lost cause when he went there in the first place.
Wow.
Obama needed me to be eradicated in order to continue to conceal the investigation of Inspector General Walpen. Inspector General Walpen was a witness in my federal case, early 2016. Before we can get into court and before I can drop the case, he was ran over by a car. Obama used all his political power to block me from ever receiving a court date and my child from ever receiving a court date after the child was federally kidnapped, in order for us never to prove the source of his federal kidnapping. This is my plea to Congress and all the subcommittees that deal with the judicial review and government oversight. My son Yeshua was trafficked at age 7 all the way to age 15. And those who violated federal kidnapping laws were not prosecuted due to their personal relationships with the FBI. When personal relationships block FBI investigations, child sex trafficking begins. No child deserves to be raped. In fact, it is the most horrific crime that I can think of for a human being's child to be raped at age 7 daily through age 15. Congress, please allow me and my son, Yeshua, to present our case because we are being denied due process. Those who violated federal kidnapping laws have blocked our due process for 9 years. Since 2014, those child trafficking ring members who happen to be public officials have concealed the federal kidnapping and child trafficking of my son to prevent them from the Nevada life sentence of no possibility of parole under NRS law 200.320. Congress, I'm asking you, all we're asking for is due process. for a 7-year-old child trafficking victim who's still alive. Most child trafficking victims aren't alive because they are murdered by the child traffickers for exposing them. Child trafficking is the fastest growing illegal business in America, and it's being concealed because it's a larger corporation than Walmart, Walgreens, and Nike combined. Help us stop child trafficking by allowing us to speak to Congress. The evidence we have shows public officials trafficking children and denying the children due process in violation of the Social Security Act's Interstate Compact for the Placement of Children. They block due process through the use of judges that they have on their take. If it makes more than Walmart, there's a lot of money going around. Please allow the children of America due process against their violent child sex traffickers and federal kidnappers. This is my plead. Thank you.
I don't know how that has impacted you. I mean, I get it. To some degree, I know why some people don't want to know about these things, because if you don't know how to handle truth-based news or information, you can let it become a weight to bear you down. I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to let it motivate me more and more to pray, to pay attention, to help bring awareness to the heinous crimes that happen to children, as well as many other situations. As I say on my channel, I want to talk about religion, politics. I want to talk about real, relevant information. Yes, you'll see some of my shorts with some humor in there and things of that nature, to be kind of well-rounded, so to speak. But this is heart-wrenching. And it would matter more to some of you who might, pass this video or say, okay, well, that sounds bad, but, if it becomes your problem, then you're going to want other people to take out of their time, out of their energy, take time away from their family, or to be aware to help you. If you see something, say something, or whatever the case may be. Our nation, this American culture, is in shambles, full of corruption. Yes, do I believe there's some bright lights out there? Of course. Because of who I serve? Yes, I do believe that. But we need to get our priorities in place. We need to stop burying our heads in the sand. Look up and pay attention to what's going on around us. Especially looking after and protecting the innocent. Please like, subscribe, share this video, set your notifications, share this video. Please share this information. I hope some Christians, some pastor, share this video, or at the church or something, and pray. Pray for the children. Pray that God will reveal, uproot, and expose this criminality, these crimes happening against the children. May God bless you. May God touch your heart. And thank y'all for joining me. I'll see you next time.